Welcome to the channel, everyone. So you're scrolling through social media one night and you come across a video that's featuring something similar to one of these. And you think to yourself, man, those are kind of cool. I'd like to build one of those myself, but I don't even know where to start. Well, welcome to the beginning. So this is going to be a multi-video series that's going to show you how to start your project, choose an enclosure, choose your components, set up your box or your enclosure for all of these components, layouts and all that stuff. We're going to show you how to wire your power and your sound. And then finally, I'm going to show you how to test and tune so that you will then have your own custom-made Bluetooth speaker. So let's get started. Okay, so before you can start the physical part of this build, we need to answer some questions, make some decisions first. First, probably the most important to everybody in these days is budget. What's my budget going to be? What's the allotment of money I'm going to use? And that's going to help me determine what choices in my components that I'm going to make. Right? That way you don't wind up overspending and disappointed because you got more money in something that you built that you could have just bought off the shelf. Second thing I always ask everybody is, what type of music do you listen to and what are your listening styles? So in other words, if you listen to hip hop that has a lot of bass tone and you like it really, really loud, then a small speaker setup like this probably is going to disappoint you. You're going to want something bigger than that. So thinking about your listening style, thinking about how loud you're going to listen to it, that's going to come into play. The next thing is going to be, is this going to be a personal space speaker, like in an office setting where you don't want it really loud, or in your garage or shop where it doesn't have to be all that loud? Or am I taking this to the lake? Am I taking it to the river and trying to entertain everybody? So it's got to be really, really loud. These are decisions, things you need to think about ahead of time as well. And then last, is this going to be a water sport or is this going to be a dry sport build? So do I need marine speakers? Do I need to ensure that everything is going to be waterproof because it could be in a boat or floating down the river or something like that? All these decisions need to be made ahead of purchasing any components. Okay, so the next step is going to be explaining, looking at what components are necessary to complete the build, right? So obviously you're going to need some kind of enclosure, whether that be a Harbor Freight or a Northern Tool enclosure, or if you're going to go on Amazon or build your own, whatever it may be, you're going to need some kind of enclosure, right? Then you're going to need to choose your set of speakers. That's going to be determined by the decisions you made in the first video of how your listening style is, right? Next thing we're going to need is we're going to need an amplifier, right? So you're going to need that. You're going to need some kind of battery power source, like an internal battery like this. If you use an internal battery, well, you're going to need some way to charge it through the box because you're not going to want to take it open every time. So we'll need a power port. We're also going to need something to turn this box on with, so we'll need a switch. That's a 5-pin power switch. One of the other decisions you want to make is that you have the ability, in some cases, to charge a phone or have a battery indicator telling you what the battery voltage is on the outside of the box, so we can order one of those. It has USB chargers. Sometimes they have USB-C. There's lots of options for those. You might want to put that in your build. You're definitely going to need some Velcro, some type of glue, whether it be hot glue, CA glue, super glue, whatever choice you make for what type of glue. You're going to need lever connectors, right? Lever connectors connect the wiring together so that we don't have to solder it if you don't want to. Soldering is always the best, but if you don't want to do the soldering and don't know how to solder, you can use lever connectors. We're going to need some kind of butt connectors for the wiring for the speaker. Some way to hold that amplifier down we're going to need besides the Velcro, because that puts it kind of flat. We don't like that. So there are options like this one, which is a 3D printed amp holder. We can order those from some of the 3D printing guys. You're going to need sound deadener to line the inside of the box, right? So that's going to It's going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to stiffen it up so it doesn't vibrate quite as much. And two, it's going to kind of cut down on that hollow sound from a big empty plastic box. All right. We're going to need speaker wire. Definitely going to have some kind of wiring. Typically 16 gauge, 18 gauge is what's normally used. You can go higher, you can go lower, your choice. All right. Tools we're going to need for sure. We're going to need a little Phillips screwdriver so that we can assemble that amplifier and put our wires in there for the speakers. And you're going to need a good set of wire strippers and crimpers for the speaker wire. All right. There are other options that you can add as well. You can go as wild as your imagination gets. Lights, flashing lights, all kinds of different things. There's been tons of these builds, but this is the stuff that you're going to need to do a basic build.